Hello, you're listening to Don't Listen to This Podcast, a podcast all about the 1,001 albums you should listen to before you die, or allegedly so. I'm your slightly hungover podcast host, Ewan Gleadow. I'm a journalist and a writer for places. Daily Star, cult following, Clapper, Geek Show, Newcastle World. Yeah, if I talk for extended periods, I feel a bit grim. But I'm joined again by Jason Button. Hello.
Hello, how are you? Other than slightly not quite with it this morning.
Yeah, not bad. You know, you've known me for a while, and I only drink spirits, but I had craft lager and beer yesterday.
You went in quite heavy with that as well. What was it, 12%?
Yeah, 12% for like a coffee espresso thing because I like coffee. I've got my flat white in a cappuccino mug, but I don't tend to drink beer or lager. I like Marjorie, and I like one called Groll, but apparently I'm pronouncing that wrong. Gruel?
Are you not thinking Grosh? Or is
Grosh, that's the one, yeah, Grosh.
I think that's a brilliant start of that.
It's lovely. It's really nice. But you know, I'm still of the variety of I'm a student. I can drink vodkas. I'm not a student anymore. I can't drink vodka anymore. I've put all my drink on the floor. I've got 2 bottles of vodka and a quarter of bourbon left, and it's like, no. I've got 3 Jaeger bombs that I nicked from my office as well.
No.
Yeah, 3 little ones, mini Jaegers. But
that's self-abuse, that, isn't
it? Yeah, it is in a bit. I don't really know when I'm going to drink those at home, but I'm sure I'll get around to them. But you know, it's a bit of a sunny day, so we've got our sunnies on. This is not to mask a hangover. This is because there is light just streaming in and hitting us on the face. So we've adorned our sunglasses, but I think we've picked a very cool time.
We've chosen our pretentious inside looks for.
We have.
So to make sure we seem as awful as possible.
It beats these glasses because these are filthy because I spilt lager on them. But we are talking today about The Clash and London Calling. But before we get into that, I'm not going to do a podcast book. I don't have adverts for this. I'm going to ask you, Jason, what have you been listening to recently? Because I only asked you that about last week.
It's been a weird week. I've basically had a Frightened Rabbit and Chumbawamba and nothing else.
I remember when you texted me that and I was like, we're one step away from Black Lace Agadoo, aren't we? We're getting close.
One day.
Thankfully, we didn't get there yet. And instead we've opted for The Clash and London Calling, which is, you know, a bit of a big album. I forgot to put it behind me, but I've found that on the split I do in the edit, it cuts that out, so you may be able to see the legs of Jarvis Cocker on the album front rather than...
I'll tell you what you need to do. You just need to do what Anthony Fantano does on YouTube. Just get the green screen, just put it over that.
Do you think I have the funding for a green screen? Anthony Fantano's a billionaire.
Go for it.
I've not got a wall behind... Well, I've got a wall, but it's like miles away because I live in a veranda.
Get you.
I don't actually. I could you know. So London Calling, The Clash, 1979. Joe Strummer, Mick Jones, Paul Simonon, Topper Headon, and Mickey Gallagher put together essentially what is, I'm surprised when I did my research, quite the controversial punk record for the time. Quite the mixed bag. Obviously, the critical reception was phenomenal as expected, but what it actually did and how it changed the genre is larger than I'd expected. Just before I read the insert from our lovely gospel, I've written down the genres that Rate Your Music has for The Clash, London
That'll
Calling.
be a hell of a list.
New wave, punk rock, and ska. You know,
I think the worst thing is that I see it as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the very early stages of most of those things, but it's definitely there.
It's definitely there. It's like within else. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But you know, it's nice to say that my 2 favourite ska bands are Real Big Fish and The Clash. It's always delightful.
No, the only ska bands I've ever seen live were the Acrobats. Have you heard of them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. They had a TV show on CITV that I used to watch as a kid.
They supported Bowling for Soup in, I think it was 2018.
Of course, they supported Bowling for Soup.
It's weird because they were fantastic live, but I would never want to listen to them on purpose.
No, absolutely not. It's like the Wiggles, isn't it? It's
Exactly. To be fair though, the Wiggles did do a brilliant cover. Have you heard
the Tame Impala song?
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. They've got a new album out later this year. I think
the Wiggles.
Yeah, it drops when I'm in Venice, so I'm cancelling my day of films to listen to the Wiggles, and I think
Yeah, you're
Sway's
going
got
Venice.
an album.
Yeah, you never said you were going Venice, like.
Oh yeah, did I not mention that?
No, yeah, it's definitely not been all over your Instagram and Twitter and God knows
No,
what.
yeah. For those that aren't in the know, no, I'll be back by the time this is out. I'm away to the film festival, aren't I? Where I'm going to ask if Harry Styles is really bald or not. Anyways, an insert for the Clash, London Calling, and as usual, I was like, it was moderately annoying to read it. So, they may be accused of watering down punk rock with stylistic digressions and spouting off about politics without really knowing about it. But a quarter century after the recording of the Clash's masterpiece London Calling, it still stands as the work that offered a vital exit from punk's solipsism. Solipsism? Solipsism. I've got 2 degrees in journalism, I don't really know.
You probably should have read this before you tried to read it out. To be
I
fair.
made these notes 20 minutes ago. I've been in bed for about until what time is it? 10:47. I was in bed until about 10.
Beautiful.
So just give us a second to recover.
While you do that, I'll say that it's weird that 1979, and then the author's trying to say that like this is when punk went away from
Yeah.
knowing about politics, as if the Sex Pistols were anything other than coked up
Yeah.
20 somethings.
John Lydon wasn't exactly
Stopped doing nothing.
Homer or Socrates, was he? It was like, but even then he did Public Image afterwards, didn't he? So that was 83, wasn't it? Public Image,
It was around then,
first one, yeah. Public Image Limited, and then let's just we'll batter through. We'll get through the insert and we'll just pick it apart, shall we?
I was like, can I say that the Sex Pistols were coked up? Should I say allegedly though?
Doesn't really matter to me.
For the record,
I think
that was a joke. That wasn't facts. Just in case they try and sue me because I haven't got the money for it.
if Danny Boyle can make a Disney Plus show about it, I think anybody can say what they like. Doesn't really matter, does it? We'll power on through. London Calling was the definitive Clash statement after the punk manifesto of their first album and the states-friendly reproduction of Give 'Em Enough Rope. The songwriting partnership of Joe Strummer and Mick Jones now embraced other influences apart from punk and reggae, including rockabilly in Brand New Cadillac, pop on Lost in the Supermarket, and R&B on I'm Not Down, though Simonon provided the dark anthem Guns of Brixton. Spanish Bombs was a genuinely stirring political hymn, while the loping bass line, slicing guitar, and throat-shredding vocal of the title track gave them their biggest hit single to date. But what really makes this record gel is Guy Stevens' strong production. A genius entrepreneur in the record industry since the late 1960s, Stevens had fallen out of grace by the mid-1970s, but his gung-ho approach to recording sidestepped the band's intimidating reputation, and he was able to extract the best from them. The cover knowingly referenced that of Elvis's first album, though Penny Smith's iconic photo of Simonon smashing his bass guitar was pure punk. One of those rare records that both defines the time and reveals the creators coming to terms with their art. Some good lines in there. Nice end point about Elvis and how it was pure punk, and then at the start, how they diverted away from punk.
Not
my problem.
To be fair, it's because the last episode that I was on with this was Arctic Monkeys, whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not.
Yeah.
That's probably a better description of the album than what we had previously.
It is, yeah. And I'm glad because I think if my schedule works out right, this is the episode after that one. So
okay.
Welcome back. You've been on 50% of the episodes so far. Well,
I'll take that. Because there's only about 8 albums that on this list that I know well, so I'm making the most out of it while I can.
I think I know about 8 albums on this list as well, and I've got to talk about all of them. I've spoke about 4 of them already. Yeah, so there's a lot to pick apart in that kind of. But before we do that, before we let's simmer down a bit. Let's bring it in. What memories have you got with this album? Have you got any?
Oh no,
No, me either.
I have memories of songs on the album, but not the album itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it London Calling by any chance?
It's London Calling, and for some reason, Lost in the Supermarket. No idea
really?
why. It's just something that I've just known for years.
Oh.
It's again. I'm
real indie kid.
Oh no, I'm far too cool for this. But like it's I don't know why. It's just one of those songs. It's just like I've just kind of known about for a long time. It's kind of like There Is Light and Never Goes Out. Just like it's just there.
It's just there, and I'm glad you said that because a lot of the Clash songs for me, especially the stuff that was on Combat Rock, which was I think the album they followed this up with.
Yeah.
It's great music, but it feels like background noise now because it's been assimilated in culture so fearlessly and so often. If you hear the opening chords of London Calling, you know what you're in for. It's not on the same level of losing its touch like Mr. Brightside did, but it's on that level of like, Come on Eileen, and obviously it's removed from that a bit
These are
because
some brilliant comparisons here, mate.
well, all right, it's like Common People or like not Wonderwall. Name another Oasis song. It's one of those songs that essentially defines the artist behind them. With David Bowie, you've got Life on Mars. With Bob Dylan, you've got shit. I've dropped myself in it there, haven't I? Bob Dylan, you've probably got like a Rolling Stone. That'll
Yeah.
do. But every time, like if you say the Clash, you're gonna say either Rock the Casbah or London Calling. That's the two you're going to go for. You're not going to, well, maybe should I stay or should I go? But you're not going to say something like, Clampdown or The Right Profile, which are great songs, but nice little hidden gems on the albums. And that tends to be the sort of track record for these, is that the defining tracks are great, but then you scratch that surface a little bit and you get something brilliant. I suppose the impact of the album, then that's an easy question, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's just kind of there, isn't it?
It's one of those albums that's just there, and then you see it in record shops every time you go in, and you clock it, and it's like, I own this already. Somebody else is gonna have to buy this, and there's not enough people on Earth to buy up all the copies of London Calling left. We're gonna have to double up, we're gonna have to triple up, but at
That's the
some
point of
point,
re-releases, though, isn't it? Just get the 70-year-olds who bought it initially sorted.
you can get it, but it sounds a little worse every re-release.
There
Can't
you
wait
go.
for the 50th anniversary. I think I got I don't know if mine's an original print or like the first re-release they did. And it, my ears are knackered anyway, so I don't really know the difference.
That's the thing with re-releases and that sort of thing. I only notice if I know it really, really well, and I
Yeah,
don't feel like I've listened to this album enough over a prolonged amount of time to
yeah.
notice subtle differences in production and that sort of thing.
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of like this record came out it was 20 years before I was born, and you're a couple of years older than me. So
Yep.
we've not exactly, we never experienced the big period of its existence. And like, Arctic Monkeys when I was 6. You know, we're always in the blinkered view now. We have to look back on it, and to look back on such great writing is incredible. I think the biggest thing for me is, the insert said it wasn't exactly a punk record. It moved away from that. The Clash is probably the best punk band available because they blend the morality and ethics of punk with actually good sounding music.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that you've only really started to get again. I don't say music now is amazing, but like that you only have started to get again over the last 10 years ish.
Yeah,
And even then, it's not traditional punk in that sense. It's
it's
taken out elements
variations.
from
Yeah.
other things, which again has probably influenced this album going through another 40 odd years.
Well, that's the thing. I'm glad you brought that up because it's kind of like, the inevitable two I thought of were Amyl and the Sniffers and Yard Act are sort of little branches of a style of punk that, for the sake of relevance, can just be compared to the Clash, because everybody can be compared to the Clash, because if
Yeah,
you
and I
comment
was kind of
socially,
thinking like Fontaine's DC, that sort of
Fontaines, yeah,
thing. Yeah,
it's kind of like, if you comment on a social issue, then you're going to get compared to the Clash or the Sex Pistols if you do it with enough wall of sound quality.
yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing because, I mean, like the insert said, I don't know how I feel about that actually. They don't really know or understand the political issues they're commentating on. And then you've got something.
I completely. If anything, I think they understand it more than, especially listening to interviews, watching interviews,
Yeah.
reading stuff. I'd argue they understand it more than, for example, Sex Pistols did, for
Yeah,
reasons that we've
without a
already
doubt, yeah.
kind of gone
The
into about 10 minutes ago.
the issue that it points to is that it makes the Clash sound like they're just a bunch of lads that don't really know what they're doing, but they're singing about stuff that they find interesting.
Which I
This is,
think it's a very naive
yeah.
take. That
I mean, this is their third album. Third album on this list, I believe. I think, there's obviously How many albums are we counting? Cut the Crap as an actual album? Do we
Oh,
do that?
I'm so pleased you brought that up. I'm
I
so pleased you brought up Cut the Crap. I'm very excited to talk about that later on.
I've listened to every Clash album now, by the looks of it. So London Calling's their third album.
Hmm.
They've been making music pretty consistently. An album every year is quite impressive.
It is by modern standards, definitely, yeah.
Oh, without doubt, yeah. I mean, it's you look at someone like Elvis Costello who refuses to not rattle an album out every year through sheer willpower. I think it's impressive for the Clash though, because I think a lot of punk bands like the Sex Pistols sort of get a reputation for having that one segment of being really on fire, top of charts, everything, and then do not do anything else afterwards.
That's
The
the thing. I
Clash,
think because
6 albums.
that's it. I think because especially with like the Sex Pistols, the way it was set up with Malcolm McDonald and all that, it was never geared up to be a long-standing project.
No, of course not. No.
Like it was. That's the idea that Malcolm McDonald had and the idea of who the people were in the band. It was just
Yeah.
never going to work.
No, God, no, Jesus. But that's the thing. It's kind of you either capture the lightning in a bottle, or you continue to grow as musicians. And I think that's what the Clash does here, because the first album's all right, it's fine. Give them enough rope is all right, it's fine. And then London Calling's this big explosion of right. They've really focused in on something here. They've really gotten together. The influences that come toward the Clash on this album are surprising. Like, I'm just going to get the drummer's name up because I've forgotten it. Topper Headon had seen Taj Mahal the night before they recorded one of the tracks on here, which I've also forgotten the name of because I'm really well prepared.
And definitely not hungover.
Whoa, Lost in the Supermarket. Lost in the Supermarket. I haven't eaten anything either today. I had one of those, what do you call them? Brioche rolls.
Oh yeah,
lovely. But the chocolate's repeating on itself. No, so Lost in the Supermarket was Topper Headon had seen Taj Mahal the night before and thought, you know what, I'm going to swap out my snare drum for a tom-tom drum. And it's little changes like that that really connect London Calling to the actual music scene of the time. And I think that's where it gets its timeless reputation from and the legacy of it. The impact of this album comes from the fact that the Clash are not just good musicians and really good writers, but that they're really keen to innovate with sounds that they're hearing themselves.
I think they're very like, especially with this album, they're very like aware of what's happening around them. Because in the same way, I was checking, and what was it? When they were recording this album, the Specials had just released their debut.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And I think that might be where they got a few influences from in there.
Without a doubt, yeah.
I'm hoping so because it makes me look really good, and the timing of it fits perfectly.
Say that the Beatles are punk. There you go.
Always,
you can have that one for free. No, you're right though. I think it's not until you start listening to the albums around. It's kind of the reason I like the 1001 Albums book as a concept, is that you can see where artists are overlapping each other, where they're listening to their other work, their contemporaries, and they're going, "That's really good. We should use that on this album." And
it's funny though because I saw that and then I checked to see what else was popular in 1979.
Spandau Ballet.
Oh my god, it's ABBA. And
no.
it's very disco-y sort of stuff. So
Europop.
Can you imagine the Finger Boys in 1979?
Oh, I mean,
that's a brilliant concept. That
we like to party, but I don't think that's much. Yeah, because I mean, 79 was what, like Fear of Music by Talking Heads, Gang of Four, Entertainment.
But I was looking at like the top selling albums, and it's Shoddy Body. And it's very like it's not the sort of stuff that you think holds up well now at all. So this is what really annoys me when people say, "Oh, music was better in the 70s and all that." Like, no, it was just as crap as it is now. It's just that the good stuff holds firm, the other shite doesn't.
It's exactly that, and I think that's the thing. It's like when you look at the high-selling records. I don't mean to sound like I'm gatekeeping music, but when you look at the top of the charts and you see Elton John's greatest hits, you know the shit munchers have got their hand in something, you know? Like I really like Elton John. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is a phenomenal album, and Rocket Man's a great song. And let's draw a line under it there. I think I can the Clash London Calling is a very great selling album because it was critically acclaimed at the time, and it's continued with that legacy. It's managed to make itself a very, very nice little niche of punk albums actually selling well. Because obviously, Never Mind the Bollocks by the Sex Pistols has exploded. How much of that is based on the musical quality? I can't know. I don't know because I haven't done research for that episode yet. But what we can decide with London Calling is that a lot of the qualities of this album, beyond being a real punk status and a message, as some of the tracks, and I'm sure we'll get into the likes of Clamp Down and London Calling, is that their lyrics are really strong, and now not just strong but consistent throughout the whole album. I don't mean to keep comparing to the Sex Pistols, but I suppose that's sort of
It's the go-to, isn't it? Really, with
yeah,
these.
it is.
These
It is.
options,
It's like I'm not going to bring out Gang of Four. Who's going to do that? Or like, I mean, to be fair, to be critical of the 1001 Albums book, it's very heavily leaning towards punk bands of the late 90s and early 80s. It's like there's just such an explosion of punk bands, and it's you can probably just whittle it down to London Calling. That'll do. But there is a real consistency throughout London Calling, lyrically and sort of pacing. And I know we spoke of the importance of the track listing on the Arctic Monkeys episode. What do you think about the track listing here?
I think
it's a double album, which is brilliant. It's
weird because I think like my one thing that I really don't like about this album is its length. I know it's this big, like, expansive double album. It doesn't need to be, I think. Like, for example, take out Train in Vain at the end. It's sorted. Revolution Rock would be a brilliant way to finish.
It is, yeah. So Train in Vain was like a very last minute. Oh shit!
It was. It was a secret one on the original press. Yeah.
I hate tracks. Can't stand them. Like the Beatles' Abbey Road. I think that's an incredibly perfect album, and then you've got Her Majesty at the end that ruins everything. Like genuinely,
that's the only one of those that I like. I don't want to bring up Bowling for Soup again, but on their album Drunk Enough to Dance, they've got an acoustic cover or an acoustic version of Belgium from the previous album, which it doesn't fit with the rest of the album, but it's such a lovely version of an average song.
It's when CDs were a thing, when they would leave the gap of silence as if you're going to keep the CD running, and it's annoying more than anything. But Train in Vain is a good song, but it was I'm pretty sure that was the Australian single release that was essentially to promote London Calling. They were like, oh, maybe we should put it on the album. It's like, what a wise move. But you're right, Revolution Rock would have been the great end to it, because I do have a soft spot for the D side. I think that's, you can't say it's the best side because it's not got London Calling on it, but it does have Lovers Rock and Four Horsemen, which are fantastic songs. And then preceding that on the end of the C side, you've got The Card Cheat, which is stunning.
I think the Card Cheat is one of the best songs on the album by quite. It's weird because I can probably put this album into like the songs on this album into like three categories. There's brilliant, like fantastic, just like top drawer, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
One which like suits the album and brings out good bits from that, and other songs help bring other bits out from those songs.
Yeah.
And then there's the ones that I can just
pass.
They're passable, but they're not.
They're not
like the sort of things you'd want to stick on a playlist, sort of thing.
Yeah, like Rudy Can't Fail.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because I was thinking Brand New Cadillac for that. Because
you know what, it was.
I remember listening to this last night and thinking like, there's some very good things on here, but the Americanized songs on here for me just don't work.
They don't make much sense, especially considering broadly London Calling, obviously beyond the title, city, and the name of the track in the album. It feels like a very British punk album because it is, and that appeal to the American market, I guess, is fallout from their second album, which was allegedly, according to the insert from the book, an appeal to the United States. But to be honest, I feel like Combat Rock does that much better.
Yeah, but then you've also got to
Which,
remember as well that Brand New Cadillac isn't actually their song.
yeah, it's a cover, but
Yeah,
it's odd that the second track on your album is a cover when you've got so much strong material behind it. Like, you've got Clamp Down, The Right Profile. Jimmy Jazz after that is pretty good, and it's where's the faith in your own material to put a cover second? It's like if
I know,
Queen had
it's a
opened every
weird.
album with
It,
"Driving My
it
Car."
happened loads at the time. I think it's more of a thing of
It
its
is,
era as opposed to like it's like trying to compare. It's like looking at the Beatles now and going, "Oh, they wouldn't do well now." It's like, no, of course they wouldn't. But it's
you know,
because they're not from the 2000s.
how the hell am I meant to make their songs that are TikToks? You've got a good point though. It's like Elvis Costello's some of his best hits are just covers. All of his Army and What's So Funny About Peace, Love and Understanding are just songs he ripped from other artists and then covered.
Mm.
But it is a big album. It's I think it's brushing with 70 minutes, which is
Yeah, that's. I think I said earlier on. That's my main
yeah,
issue with it. It's just too vast, and considering
got
there's so many things going on within it, I
yeah,
think it's tough to like to basically do a 45-minute, hour-long podcast trying to work out what's going on when there's
yeah.
so much there.
It's the one, I'll give them a bit of leeway because surprisingly this is not their longest album. The London Calling I think is, I don't know, it depends because obviously for a passive listener, for someone that just wants to listen to a bit of music, there's a variety on here that like great, I'll whack that on, bit of London Call and maybe Clamp Down, something like that. For someone that wants to sit and listen to an album, there isn't any filler. There's no like song that I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, what's this doing here? It's all good. Like there is no like, there's obviously rises and falls in quality, but there's nothing where I'm like, oh, that needs to just go. Maybe Rudy can't fail, but
Oh, I can't believe you're saying that.
well,
It's in that it's on that when I said about the three columns sort of thing.
yeah,
To me,
so
it's
the second
bordering
one.
between number one and number two.
Whoa, number one. That that is reserved
And
solely for
I think it's mainly because I just hate Brand New Cadillac so much. Just the
brand
Americanized parts on here, I just cannot stand.
brand new Cadillac. I can kind of get away with because it's over pretty quickly before I've noticed it's happened. Like I'm still on the high of London Calling, and then halfway through I'm like, this what's happened here, and it just kind of placates a bit. To be fair though, to cap off the A side, Rudy Can't Fail is a decent one because then you open up with essentially the politically charged B side, which is Guns of Brixton, Clamp Down, Lost in the Supermarket, Spanish Bombs, Right Profile, which is an incredibly strong five piece.
I think the B side is the best part of the album. Like if you've only
Yeah,
got 15, 20 minutes, that's what
that's
I'd
the
put on.
side pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Right, starting with
yeah,
Spanish Bombs, fantastic. Lost in the Supermarket, obviously brilliant, and and Guns of Brixton is just
yeah,
fantastic.
and
I
it's where
love Guns of Brixton.
it's an incredible song, and it's where I don't get the criticism that the book throws at them, which is that they didn't understand the politics of the time and they were just sort of writing about it rather than understanding it. It's like you can't write Clampdown and Guns of Brixton without understanding what is going on around you.
Mm.
It's Clampdown's a great example of that. The men in the factory are old and cunning. You don't owe nothing, so boy, get running. You can't write that and not think that might be politically motivated.
It's the like we said before, it's the awareness that
Yeah,
is so important in these songs, and it works so well.
that's the thing. So it's my big argument for that is that's such a great politically charged two lines. How can you say that the Clash didn't write actively noticeable and knowledgeable political lyrics when you look at something like that? It's like you can't put those together. They're not just writing that for fun so they can have a nice guitar loop under it. It's a real active choice to write that way. But what do I know?
That's the thing, because you've got that, even stuff like Lost in the Supermarket, Coca-Cola, that sort of thing.
Coca-Cola, yeah.
It's look. I mean, God knows what I think of how we are now, but like it was the consumeristic aspect of like the late 1970s
Yeah,
and all that, and it's really well done
it is. It's
in
very
that
well done.
sense. Yeah,
I don't think the Clash would have liked me because you know how much Coca-Cola I used to drink.
I know.
It was, it was terrifying, wasn't it?
One thing I want to say about Coca-Cola as well, just like give myself a little bit more respect is that when it starts with elevator going up, just that little sample sort of thing. That was sampled by Cart the Unstoppable Sex Machine in their song Shopper's Paradise, which is basically similar sort of themes, that sort of thing. But a
Yeah.
much I like Coca-Cola, but Shopper's Paradise has a better use of it because it uses that going up and then just goes straight into a really heavy
Oh,
in rhythm. It's brilliant.
that's fantastic. I didn't actually know that.
It's really well done.
The only sample I can confidently talk about is the Tom Tom Club sample, which is used on every single track of the 1990s.
Really, not even Rizzle Kicks on Revolution Rock.
Oh, please,
No,
please. Why did you have to remind me Rizzle Kicks are a thing? Why? I could have gone the rest of my putrid life without knowing about Rizzle Kicks.
I think
The last I heard of them, they were doing Nevermind the Buzzcocks.
I could have done. Then I went back and listened to this album. Revolution Rock started, and I was like, "Oh my god, they were a thing, weren't they?" Because you just can't escape it. Because like people of our age, when I was a youngster, was huge. You couldn't escape it, and
It was big.
and it was annoying that I knew about it through that rather than Revolution Rock, which is obviously a slightly better song.
Are you telling me Rizzle Kicks are part of your musical history?
I wish they weren't. I
wish they weren't. You can't escape. If they're on Nevermind the Buzzcocks, that means they're set in musical history.
I know.
When's their Hall of Fame induction coming?
It must be coming up soon, like, surely.
I don't mean to slate Rizzle Kicks, but I know nothing about them at all.
I think, if anything, they both seem like very nice people.
Yeah.
From the television, from the TV appearances I've seen, they seem like very nice young men.
Yeah, they remind me of LMFAO, that sort of variety.
No, do not make that comparison. Please, no.
Jedward, LMFAO, and Rizzle Kicks. Don't get it, me.
Whoa. Jedward have one outstanding song. Genuinely.
Yeah?
It's an album track of one of their albums. It's called...
You've listened to Jedward albums, is that what you're
I was that bored in lockdown. I decided to see if Jedward have any good original songs, and they do. Teenage Runaway is a banger. Genuine top draw song.
I like to think I'll give that a listen after the podcast, but I know I won't because it's Jedward. The only thing I know about Jedward
genuinely is like high-powered pop songs go. It's very good. It's scarily good for Jedward.
Would you say you're a Jedward fan?
Oh God, no. I'm a fan of that song. I'm not a fan of Jedward.
Okay, we'll let that hang in the air. Because all I remember Jedward from is they were on Big Brother with Vern Troyer one year.
They also did Eurovision, didn't they?
Oh, was that our choice for Eurovision?
No, it was Ireland's choice for Eurovision.
Oh yeah, they're Irish, aren't they?
God, I'm so sorry.
No problem. That's
just me talking about Jedward's on a podcast about London calling for 5 minutes.
Joe Strummer is spinning in his grave. That man, put a bit of respect, as Jose Mourinho once said. Respect, man. But yes, for
anyone who does listen to this, we're gonna have the 65-year-old former punks absolutely raging right now.
I've not the time to get chased through the streets by mods and cons, right? I've just not the time for it. I don't want to get chased by mopeds or people wearing bloody leather jackets. Do I look like someone that should be chased in the street?
You do realise that mods and punks are very different people, yeah?
Yeah, I forgot what the other one was called. I thought mods, and then there's another one, and I forgot the word.
It's mods and rockers.
Mods and rockers. That's something. Yeah,
like, that was like 60s, wasn't it? And then
don't worry, I've seen Quadrophenia. I know all about it. I lived it through Phil Daniels'.
That's like saying, "Oh yeah, I know about football hooliganism. I know about Danny Doe."
Hey, I've seen The Football Factory. He's very good in that.
Brilliantly bad, isn't
it? What was he thinking? Speaking of what was he thinking, what were the Clash thinking with Cut the Crap? There you go. There's your insert.
Nice.
Back of the net. We're 4 episodes in. He's already nailed it down. What a seg.
There's a YouTube video called this guy called Todd in the Shadows, music critic.
Yes,
where he tears apart the album. It's a brilliant video. Go and watch that if you haven't already. But
are you plugging other people's work on my podcast? It is very good. I would strongly recommend it.
If good work's there, I'm shouting out to it. Yeah, but no, Cut the Crap again. Brilliantly, it's an obtuse album in the shittest possible way.
Can I say something controversial? I like one of the tracks on Cut the Crap.
Which one?
Dirty Punk.
No, no, no.
Dirty Punk and Movers and Shakers is okay because it reminds me of Market Shaker in Newcastle. I've only been in Market Shaker a couple of times, but then I saw Movers and Shakers and I thought, that's the place I go drinking.
There's one good song on there, and it's This Is England, and again it's because the only reason it goes back to this London calling sort of time of the Clash, where they're at least like socially aware, without being oh god, oh we're the Clash, we need to do something big.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think, especially after London Calling, you can see that started to disintegrate the band. Where London Calling was such a hit, it was such a magnificent piece, and it obviously, it riffed on Elvis Presley's album cover, which I think is brilliant. I absolutely love the album cover, and I know I'm surprised how much time I've spent talking about album covers on this podcast, but I think I've rather quickly realised that they're so important.
Oh, massive! I think that's one of the things that if someone tries to talk about an album and might say that it's one of the best of all time, that sort of thing, I don't think you can do that without talking about the title of the album, the cover, the way the tracks are set out, and for me as well, the opening line of an album is absolutely key. Because we spoke about it with Arctic Monkeys, and this as well.
You're right. It's why Different Class is the best album of all time. So just let that hang. It's why Weezer's got such a good shot of it with Blue Album, because
I know it's
that, especially recently, that cover has become. It's gotten a bit of a resurgence. Just people using it for memes and stuff. Like
it has.
Billboard.
Have you seen the T-shirt that has it, and then it just says "I love One Direction"?
Yeah, it's fantastic. There was a billboard about car safety, and someone had obviously realised it's the same hue as the Weezer Blue album, and then put them in the car seat safety with the seatbelts on. But album covers are so important, and I didn't realise that because obviously, if it's music's obviously very audible art. You don't really give much perspective.
Do you have to listen to music, mate? Is that? I never knew that. Like,
I've edited one article where someone said they could close their eyes and still hear the music. That they will remain nameless, but editing was a fun chore. But yes, I think this is essentially the quintessential. It's like the Clash were very close to becoming what the Sex Pistols were, and that their image is bigger than their music. You think of Nevermind the Bollocks, you think of John Lydon, and you think of all the work that they did. Don't get me wrong, Nevermind the Bollocks has some great tracks on it, but whenever I think of them, I'm thinking of the album, I'm thinking of the imagery. I'm not thinking that much of the music, particularly. With London Calling, it nearly gets to that point. I think it's such a culturally resonant image of a bass guitar being smashed on stage. It essentially summarises punk in an image, while also riffing on Elvis Presley, of all people.
That's been, in a way, that sums up what the album is, in a way, because it's like taking stuff from the past, using it in a way that, not subverting it, but adjusting what it is to suit what's happening at the time.
Yes, exactly.
Which is why I get that a lot of people may not like this album as modern listeners, but that's because they're taking it with the current context, as opposed to the context of when it was from.
Yeah, I think that's a huge issue that the Clash kind of can't navigate, essentially, because what are they going to do about it? You can't stop somebody reappropriating the music for a current situation. It's why I think more recently some artists have readjusted lyrics, or they've taken a look when the anniversary tour rolls around. The Clash can't do that, essentially.
Yeah,
that's that. And I think the context of the time of the Clash's album coming out is important because it gives perspective on the political situation of the times. Thatcher had just been elected, which is not good, to say the least. But even something like Clampdown, which is about factory workers and the working class, that was actually based on the Nazi German party in the 1930s of the brown shirts, essentially, not on Thatcher, which is it's a very fine line between, is this commentating on the commentary of now, or is it on the past as well? which I suppose is where the whole clash, do they really know about politics, comes in, is that they're commenting on political issues, but they're hoping that they're appropriated for the current context.
That's the thing, because it's the same as Spanish bombs. Because
Yeah.
it's more Spanish Civil War, 30s sort of Franco, or a very, very early Franco sort of stuff. And I think it's one of the albums that, one of the songs that it doesn't fit on the album in the traditional sense of what the rest of the album is about.
Yeah.
But it works in the idea that it's in an idealistic sort of way it does, but in a more like literal sort of way it doesn't quite fit.
The Clash of history buffs just hoping the revision notes are making it into the current context, which is understandable. It works. It's considering the amount of sort of flashbacks to the 30s, the Franco era, Hitler, the 1930s as a political period, as well as essentially remaking the Elvis Presley album of the 1957. It's on the list, so it must be after 55. A lot of it does feel like a look back at the past, a reappropriation of that culture, and then it only makes sense that the Clash is then reappropriated for the next culture, which it does give it a bit of leeway when it's taken apart essentially. It is part of that image, though. It's do they soon become a fabrication of themselves, which I would argue Combat Rock, while not the strongest album they did, is very fun. Obviously, it's got two of their biggest hits on it, and you know as well as I do, they used to play Rock the Casbah in India a lot.
That was always one of the highlights of my night, I'm not going to lie.
It was pretty good, yeah. But I mean, at the time, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know the lyrics.
I remember going on holiday to Morocco, and hear me out. And just every time that I saw anything regarding like Casbah, that sort of thing. Also, Marrakesh Express. Literally, Rock the Casbah and Marrakesh Express were two songs that I heard so much in Morocco just because my dad played them all the time.
Yeah, I had the same experience in Benidorm, but it was Erasure and Oasis rather than the Clash. But Benidorm's just hot England, so.
Benidorm was a strange, strange place.
You don't want to know how many times I've been on holiday at Benidorm. I've been that many times that I've had more than one night out on the strip. So.
Ooh.
I went to Tiki Beach. I went to the Love Island Rejects pad.
Nice. I've been to Benidorm once for one day, and then
you did, yeah.
Me and my girlfriend went to Alicante, stayed there, did one day in Benidorm, and I was like, "Yeah, that's enough."
You've seen it all now.
Yeah.
There will never be more of a frightening sight than a very short man dressed as Charlie Chaplin urging me to walk into a bar because he's offering free tequila, and me going, "Yeah, all right." And then I went in and it's a Star Wars 6 show. Benidorm's a feral place. It really is.
So I'd love to think of what Joe Strummer's family think about us talking about this on probably his greatest ever work.
Every great work's a launch pad. Elvis Presley was a launch pad for the Clash. I feel like
and the Clash was something for Benidorm.
You know what?
It's the Benidorm life. That's all it is.
It's like the Lion King. Benidorm TV show does not do justice to Benidorm the place. Benidorm the TV show makes it look like the Ritz. It's honestly feral, actually terrible. But it's cheap and it's fun. Nothing better than wandering around the strip at 12:30 and knowing that everybody there is from Norfolk. It's great. Never better. Speaking of great, though, we didn't talk about Death or Glory.
Mate, these segues are getting worse, honestly.
I've gotta, I'm not a podcast host. I do things sometimes, and then I've ended up here, Also, the hangover's not going away. Like, I can feel my ears exploding.
Oh,
my nose hurts.
That's a good sign. Keep that going.
This water tastes funny. Like,
things like that's the sort of sentence that's going to make you still sound drunk.
Shout out to As the Still. But Death or Glory is I'm just thinking Joe Strummer's family. We should probably talk about his music.
Yeah, probably best. This is a podcast about the album.
I love Death or Glory. I
Hmm.
think it's a fantastic song. I think it's lyrically probably the strongest on the album, maybe
Okay.
other than Clampdown.
Mm.
Mainly because uh, every sheep hood strikes a bargain with the world and ends up making payments on a sofa or a girl. Love and hate tattooed across the knuckles of his hands. Hands that slap his kids around because they don't understand how. And it's just a breakdown of a specific culture, a specific aspect, and that's what the Clash do best: is that they break down what they perceive, but they do it by reflecting.
That's it.
And
In this album as well. It's I know I'm one of these people who just makes comparisons all the time, but like with it's the sort of album that like it's a snapshot of people as well.
yes, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
really can't fail, card sheet, that sort of thing. It's very human centered
it is, yeah,
in a way that with like obviously London Calling, it's like this. It starts out with this massive like overview sort of thing, and then Jimmy Jazz and all that sort of thing. It's working its way through. They could literally just be going through flats on one street.
yeah. Oh god, yeah. It's when I tried moving to Hull, you see a bit of Death or Glory in there. Um,
I've got a note here that like it's very like it in that way. It's very similar to early Fountains of Wayne
ooh,
in that
yeah,
it's like there's no overarching theme of this is what it's like to do this sort
yeah.
of thing, but it's snapshots and it's really well written, carefully prepared and described snapshots of what life is like at that time.
It is, yeah,
Except
absolutely.
except Fountains of Wayne make it sound far more monotonous than the Clash
Well,
ever will.
yeah. If anything, if any criticism can be leveled at the Clashes that they made life sound too fun,
Yeah, it's very exciting, isn't it? I wish I
it
lived in
is
that life.
in the late
Well,
'70s. Yeah, what a fun
yeah,
time. They didn't have color TVs back then, did? Oh, they did. They did.
yeah.
Yeah, they had Bullseye though, so
Oh, shame.
yeah, I wouldn't want that. Wouldn't
No.
wish that on my worst enemy. But if it's that or Stephen Mulhern's catchphrase, I know which one I'm going for.
Well, you're not a fan of In for a Penny then, Stephen
No,
Mulhern?
not at all.
Oh,
The only thing I remember Stephen Mulhern from was that magic show he did on CITV.
I was saying this to my girlfriend a few days ago. I had his magic set bought for me for Christmas.
No,
I did.
no. I begged, pleaded, cried, and made myself sick asking for that, and I never got it. Furious. It's my holy grail. Well, it's not, but my holy grail's probably like a Johnny Cash final that's out of print. But no, actually, it's Pulp's
That'd be
last
worth a
album.
fair bit,
Hmm?
That'd be worth a fair bit.
Yeah, it's mine though.
Fair enough.
um, I suppose on the whole, I think we can already see that the cultural relevance of the Clash sort of is a launch pad for other discussions. Essentially, we've managed to bring up Jedward, Johnny Cash, Fontaines, Fountains of Wayne, because I think the Clash is such an influential band. It's hard not to get sidetracked like we have. It's impossible to talk about the Clash without talking about everything that they influence and everything that influenced them.
Especially with an album like this, where we've said before, there's so much on it.
Yeah,
Like, yes,
it's
yes, the length is a bad thing, but there's or could be a bad thing depending on who you are. But there's so much on there to almost make it worth the full thing.
yeah. I think I'd have more of a problem with the length of the album if they'd not made Sandinista, which is 140 minutes and it's okay at best. It's on the list. So I'm sure I'll have to listen to it again.
Oh, good luck with
Um,
that. No, there you
no.
go. I'm not joining you for that one. Sorry, mate.
So Sandinista came out a year after London Calling.
Mm.
Um, it's a triple album, which is no, I'm alright for that. They learned their lesson and did combat rock after.
Oh, okay.
I just, I don't know how I feel about combat rock because it gets a bad name for no reason. Uh, Combat rock has some great tracks on it.
That's it. For me, I've not listened to every album of theirs, but of the four I think that I've heard, it's the second best.
It's the second best album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of Clash albums on the list, and I think it's their self-titled debut and Sandinista are also on the list.
Hmm.
I'd be happy to scrap both of those and just stick Combat Rock on, to be honest, because that's all
Yeah.
you need.
Yeah.
Like you're not missing, and cut the crap as well, obviously.
Of course.
There needs to be some sort of reassessment of cut the crap. Surely someone out there
No,
with
no.
more critical sense than us can
I find
salvage it.
it's a weird thing. It's very like Billy Idol. It's just a bit too trying to keep up with what's already gone
Yeah,
in
so it
terms of
was.
production and that sort of thing.
Isn't it? Apart from Strummer and Simonon, everybody else has been
Yeah,
replaced or left.
but the people who came in and replaced them were like Clash super fans. So it's not even as though they had their own influences. Their influences were old Clash records.
So yeah, oh, that's a disaster. That's awful. It's like Elton John's "Victim of Love," which is
Honestly,
you
some
know,
of the names we're bringing up today, my word.
it's Elton John doing a 9-minute cover of Chuck Berry's "Go Johnny Go," but to disco funk. It's horrible.
I've not heard that. You'll have to send me a link after this.
Am I gonna have to do a spin-off podcast about bad albums?
What we might have to do is make an accompanying playlist of all the crap songs that we speak about during each episode.
There's going to be a lot of contentious ones, though, isn't there? Like, I'd happily stick a lot of Oasis on there.
Yeah, they've got two. They've got too many albums on the 1001 list, haven't they?
Don't make me say it just so early on in this podcast lifespan. I don't want to be shot and killed already. I may look a bit like John Lennon when I've got my hair grown out. I don't want to end up in the same fate. I'd happily replace both the Oasis albums with Liam Gallagher's new album. Put it that way.
I've not listened to it. I listened to Liam Gallagher's second album and thought, yeah, not for me. And then I've just left him alone since then.
His newest album is absolutely okay. That's it.
Okay, because his second was absolutely not.
It was awful. Yeah,
yeah.
It was. There's a reason that he still tours and doesn't do his album stuff because it's not very good. Speaking of not very good though, Rudy Can't Fail still on there.
I swear to God, you've got to stop giving Rudy Can't Fail bad press. I'm not having it. I'm just not having it.
I don't think I will. I'm literally looking at the track listing here. It's such a big one. It's like, where do you start with that?
That's I've got to scroll down to get it on my screen.
How big's your screen?
Not very big. That's the issue.
I've got a second monitor, but
I would if I use my work laptop, but I'm not letting. No,
not invested.
No,
me either. Best track. What is the? Don't say Rudy Can't Fail, or I'll figure out how to end the call. I don't know. There's no button for it now. They've updated the recording thing. It's like I don't know what I'm doing.
I think it's big. So I can probably. If I put down like my top column sort of thing, I'd put London Calling.
Okay.
Spanish Bombs.
That's the inevitable one. London Calling.
Rudy Can't Fail almost gets in there. Guns of Brixton, Revolution Rock, The Card Sheet.
Yeah.
And of those, I think top would maybe Lost in the Supermarket. I think Guns of Brixton for me just about edges out everything else, but only just. And that's not to say that it's not a outstanding song. It's just that the rest of them are also extremely good.
They are. I think from purely a popular choice, obviously it's going to be London Calling. That's like very much the passive fan of, I like the Clash, a couple of songs, that type of thing. Which isn't a bad thing because that's essentially how I feel about the Clash. I really. That's the thing. So when I was listening to this album the first time around, it's like I really appreciate what they're doing, what they're making, but it's not London Calling. It's not that title track. It's not.
Okay.
Because I've heard that in clubs, so I associate every music bit that I've heard in clubs with that. So, but after another re-listen a couple of months ago and then a re-listen this morning, the list has grown. And it's grown bigger than just London Calling, thankfully. Because the Clash are great musicians. They wouldn't have lasted as long as they did and survived as well as they have if it weren't for the tracks like Guns of Brixton, like The Card Sheet, like Clampdown, like The Right Profile. Even Revolution Rock, which I think is just a really nice reggae-inspired track. It's a lovely...
That's not theirs, though, is it? That's a cover.
Yeah, it's a cover. It's what can you do, eh? Cadillac, that's great. No, it's not. I can't even joke about that. I feel like the fan within me would say something like The Right Profile or Guns of Brixton, or even The Card Cheat, which I think is a severely underrated Clash song. For the sake of journalistic integrity, I'm gonna say London Calling is the
Oh,
best.
you're choosing the controversial choice there.
I'm in the same manner that Arctic Monkeys' most prolific album is their best entry point. I'm thinking of it from a perspective of I know nothing about the Clash. What is the best entry point? And it's
Okay.
not going to be the Card Cheat, which is the best song on this album. Let's say Card Cheat or Guns of Brixton or Clampdown. Those are the big three. If I had to
Okay.
pick one, it's probably going to alternate. But for now, it's I think lyrically Clampdown or Guns of Brixton.
Hmm.
But
Well,
London
one
Calling
thing I
is
will say is that all of the Scar-inspired songs on here are very good. I know you don't. I don't. I know you don't. Really can't fail. But to me, the Scar songs are what makes this album as good as it is.
you could just say you're a real big Fish fan. You know that's okay.
No,
You could
I'm
you could just say
Acrobats for
that.
life for me. Acrobats for life.
You know how I do the indent where it says like your profession and then a little joke. I don't know which one to go for this episode. Jedward acrobats or real big fish. I really don't know. I might have to retroactively edit the previous episode where I called you a Weezer fan and just put real big fish.
Oh,
Scar
it
enthusiast.
was because I was at the Hello Mega tour
Yeah.
thing. I think I was the only person more excited for Weeds than I was for that boy.
I mean, Weezer get a bad rap for no reason.
I know. I mean,
It's
there's a few on that covers album that are not good.
well, we all make our mistakes, like the Clash did with Cut the Crap, but and Sandinista. Well, actually, you know what? Saying that in the same sentence makes it sound like Sandinista's the worst thing ever put to record. It's not. It's okay. It's not
Hmm.
London Calling, though, is it? Which, for accessibility reasons, the title track is the place to start. For people that are sort of looking for the actual best Clash track, it is probably Guns of Brixton or The Right Profile.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I think that's do I really need to ask? Is there a replacement album for this one? Do you wanna bump it off the list for anything else?
Oh God, no. Well, I mean,
Cut the crap.
give or take, cut the crap. Yeah.
Give or take, cut the crap. Uh, Speaking of cutting the crap, would you like to plug your socials? Plug your
I've only really
activities?
got one social that I post on properly. Just Twitter at JasonB_journo. Everything else will be found through that, I'd imagine, probably.
Yeah, lovely
Yeah.
stuff. I suppose I should plug mine as well, which I hate doing because it means people think they can speak to me. Ever since I got verified, my head's woof ego.
What?
You can get
Because
me
it
on.
wasn't enough already.
Well, you know better than I do from editing my work when I was a student. Not good.
Oh,
I
it
remember.
wasn't. It was dire.
I mean, in hindsight, it was. I remember getting a text from you saying, "Did you write this drunk?" And I was like, "No comment."
That's because it was just so many typos that I remember that really well. Because I was looking at it, and it's like either Ewan's paid someone to write this, trying to use his style, or he just forgot how to spell for half an hour.
It was more than half an hour. Yeah, I think it'll have been the full weddings and a funeral review because I also forgot to attach an image to it. I remember texting you an image over Messenger that I'd found on Facebook while I was walking
That'll be
over a
it.
bridge. Fun times at uni, eh?
Oh, I
God,
know.
just a shout out to Pan's Bank. What a year. You get me on Twitter and Letterboxd if you really want to, at Ewan Gleadow, EWANGLEADOW. It's running across the screen there because I've learned how to use tickers on
Oh,
iMovie.
oh wow! This production value's really stepped up from last time, isn't it?
I got the thing, didn't I? I got a thing, a MacBook.
The
So
thing. Oh, nice.
one of them
That, that,
computer
that,
thingies.
tell you what, we've actually got a storyline here now across episodes. You can talk about what you've done with your MacBook that week.
I do nothing. I watched Better Call Saul on it. I spent X amount of money to watch Better Call Saul on a plane. It's yeah, you can get me on Letterboxd and Twitter there, and you can also get my work and writing on Cult Following, Clapper, Geek Show, Daily Star, Newcastle World. I think sometimes I get thrown at the Mirror as well, which is pretty cool. And obviously you can listen to this podcast. You can follow this social DLTT pod on Twitter. I almost forgot the handle there because I didn't write it down. Yeah, I think that's everything. So that's I can't use another cut the crap joke, can I? I'm fighting
Go
about
on,
five of them.
just to finish it off.
Should we cut the crap and end No, I can't end on that. That's horrible. That's terrible.
I was about to say there's cliches and then there's that.
There's cliches and then there's that, and then there's Jedward as well. But
Whoa, I'm not having this.
you're gonna have to.
Teenage Runaway, get it listened to. Brilliant.
Don't end on that. We can't end on Teenage Runaway being the recommendation of a Clash podcast.